Audio test for live stream. Check. 1, 2.
To order. Teresa, roll call, please.
We live streaming in the back? Yes. Okay. All righty. Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Mayor Kumar?
Here.
And Ms. McCall?
Here.
And if everyone would hit their mics, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On January 25th, a letter from the nominating committee was emailed to all board members announcing that nominations were open for the office of president and the office of vice president. Letters of interest were due February 22nd, 2022. The nominating committee received 2 letters, one from Reverend Lucas for president and one from Karen Moss for vice president. I'd now ask if the candidates would like to say anything. Reverend?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and to my board members. I enjoyed the honor of serving as your president last year, and I have found so many avenues that I didn't even know existed in that job, but I was glad to do that. As every week I was here at least once or twice and on the phone for Teresa almost every day. But I just want to thank you for the support that you gave last year to our CEO and to all of the staff. I think I've met with all of the senior staff and many of the others during the year, and the board members for the support that they have given. So I thought with the things that we have that we voted on that we were going to do, such as the ambassador program and others, that I would like to see in their completion. I would ask your permission and your suffrage and your permission. Again, I use that word because it's very important to serve as your president for another year.
Thanks, Reverend. We appreciate your stewardship and leadership. Now I'll ask for a motion and a second to move the candidates to be considered at the next meeting, March 29th.
I move that we move the candidates forward.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. That concludes the RTA nominating committee. I'll now turn it over to Mayor Byrne.
Good morning, everyone. I call the RTA Services and Performance Monitoring Committee to order. Teresa, would you please take roll?
All right. Mayor Byrne?
Here.
Ms. Moss is not here. Ms. Duarte is virtual, and I believe she is counted. Ms. Duarte?
Here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Mr. Serrano?
Here.
And Mayor Weiss?
Here.
We have 4 committee members present.
Thank you, Teresa. We have 2 items on the agenda today. The first is the Energy Price Management Program, a presentation to provide an overview of the authority's Energy Price Management Program. Presenter will be Natalie. Natalie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Committee Chair Mayor Byrne, committee members, and members of the board. As Mayor Byrne said, my name is Natalie Ulrich. I am the energy manager for the authority, and today I'm pleased to present to you I don't have the right slide. What? Oh. Nope. Keep going right. Keep going. There we go. Sorry about that. Today I'm pleased to present to you the Energy Price Risk Management Program update. I'll be going over a brief history of the program, how it works, the objectives, and the rules that we must abide by. Going back to the history, the program started in 2009 after we had a sharp diesel fuel price increase in 2008. Our fuel price went up from January to July a staggering 58% per gallon. Compared to the prior year, the fuel costs went up 60%. It's very hard for us to adjust to that type of an increase. So what is the program? Well, the program's about securing contracts to establish future prices. We are not paying in advance for the fuel. We are just holding a position. We are strategically purchasing contracts at perceived low points in the market. Nobody has the crystal ball. We are buying them at a perceived low point. Fuel is very complex, it's global, it's very volatile, so we get the guidance from our fuel consultant, Linwood Capital. The Ohio Revised Code has rules that we must abide by. This program is intended to mitigate for the term of the contract. It's a budgetary and financial tool only, and not a contract to procure the actual fuel or the energy source. The energy price risk management contract is not an investment. We don't buy it to lose or gain money. It's used to mitigate the position by securing a position. What's our policy? Well, our policy is that we can only hedge a maximum of 90%. So let's say we forecast 1 million gallons of fuel. We can only hedge 900,000 of it. There's no interim trading, and we could only go out a maximum of 3 years. So the program is not an investment. Unlike your stock portfolio, we can't buy and sell. We can't say, well, this is a good time to sell this contract. We'll buy another one down the road. We can't do that. Its objective is not to make or lose money. It's to increase budget certainty, and primarily to protect against sharp price increases. So the program manages our risk, or is used to manage our risk, sorry. So I want to give you an example. What happens if diesel prices increase? So the current price at the pump is about $2.60 for us. I know that we have contracts to offset December 2022 fuel already at $1.74. That's a known. What I don't know is how much we're going to sell that contract for, and I don't know how much we're going to pay at the pump. But let's use this example. Let's say we're going to sell it for $2.75. I also know historically what we sell it for, we pay at the pump about 5 cents more. So we'll pay, let's say we pay the price at the pump at $2.80. We're going to have a gain on the sale of this contract. We're going to sell it for $2.75 when we paid $1.74. So we're going to have a $1.01 gain. The net cost for December 22 then would be the $2.80 less the $1.01 gain, so it would end up being $1.79. So even though the price went from $2.60 to $2.80, because we had these contracts, we'll end up paying a net price of $1.79. So what happens if the price decreases? Once again, the current price is $2.60. I know that we have the contract at $1.74, but now I'm assuming, all right, what if we have to sell it at $1.45? Which means the price at the pump is going to be about $1.50. So now we're going to have a loss on the sale. We're going to sell it for $1.45. We paid $1.74, so we're going to have a loss of 29 cents. So in this example, you would take the $1.50 plus the 29, and you're paying $1.79. Now, when I did this example, I'm just coming up with these numbers. I don't know for sure what the price of the pump is going to be, and I thought, wow, it's right to the penny. I thought, well, this is actually a good example. It shows you that even if the price goes up to $2.80, we're going to pay $1.79 based on the contracts that we already have. Or if the price goes down to $1.50, we're going to pay $1.79. That's what provides us the budget stability. So the Energy Price Risk Management Program narrows the gap between increases and decreases. The authority can handle paying less, but it can't quickly react to paying more like what happened in 2008. And I've done this before, and it seems to help. So I'll show you with my hands. If the price peaks, and with the fuel hedging, you're going to bring it down. But on the other hand, if the price drops because of the fuel hedging, you'll also bring it up, and you've got the budget stability. So you're getting rid of this large swing. Some of it would be very difficult for us. Some of it would be beneficial, but the part that's difficult would be very hard for us to react to. So where is our status right now? Well, for 2022, we have an average price of our contracts at $1.77. At 2023, our price is $1.56. Most of these contracts were bought in 2020 and a little bit in 2019, when prices had actually dropped significantly. So that's why they are at these levels. We don't have contracts for 2024, and the reason being is Triscuit should be up and running soon. Hayden is just basically CNG. I mean, they have a few old diesel buses, but they're not really meant to be part of the fleet anymore. They're there as an emergency, but Hayden is all CNG. Triscuit, all the new buses that we're going to be having coming in will also be CNG going forward. And at the end of the day, by 2024, we're going to have a very small fleet of diesel. So we're not going to have enough diesel fuel to actually buy these contracts because we have to abide by that 90% rule. So to be able to continue with fuel hedging, we'd have to have a consumption of 560,000 gallons of diesel fuel a year. We're not going to have it by 2024. So what happened last year? Well, last year for diesel fuel, we had budgeted $3,065,000. Our net cost came in at $3,422,000. We were $357,000 over budget, 11.6%. Whereas normally it's the price that's the most variable. If you think about it, I don't know what I'm going to pay for fuel next week, next month, or the year after. That's where I've got a lot of variability. I know about what I'm going to be driving every day, but it's the price. And in this case, the price amounted to only 2.9% of the variability. So in 2015, we had started fueling CNG buses at Hayden, August to be specific. In 2015, we used a total of 4.4 million gallons of diesel fuel. Last year, it went down to 1.7 million gallons. We're displacing a lot of diesel with CNG. For our CNG buses, it's called a diesel gallon equivalent. It's a volume and a calculation. So the diesel gallon equivalent in 2015 was 400,000. For 2021, it was 1.8 million. Our costs, this is exciting, went from 12.5 million in 2015 down to 4.8 million in 2021. The average cost per gallon for both these types of fuels was $1.38. Diesel was $2.05. For the CNG buses, it was 76 cents per diesel gallon equivalent. When you add in the alternative fuel tax credit, it was an amazing 20 cents per diesel gallon equivalent. I would wait in a very long line to fuel my car at 20 cents. I mean, it's amazing that we're able to fuel these buses at such a low cost. In closing, without this program, and the budget certainty that it has created, especially in the years that we use a lot of diesel fuel, we would incur far more pain if the prices went up than relief if the prices went down. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions or comments, Mayor?
Thank you. Just one, I understand this is a financial instrument. Mm-hmm. So it's based upon some number of diesel gallons. Is it the 90%? I mean, I know you said you can hedge up to 90%.
Yeah, there's been times that we've slightly hedged more because of what we assumed the surface would be. So there's always this little variable. But when we initially intend to hedge, we hedge based on the current forecast.
Okay, and then take 90% of that. And okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Dr. McCall.
Thank you. Just watching what's happening in Ukraine and just making sure I know this is hedging for right now, and I know we can't predict the forecast, but there's a lot of discussion around the potential increase in energy and fuel costs. So I'm assuming we're watching that.
Yes.
And I don't know if we're going to have to, is this something that if those costs do go up as anticipated, will this be something that'll have to come back to the board?
Well, actually, I had a discussion with our consultant for natural gas at that point last week when this all happened, when this tragedy happened. Right now, they're not anticipating it hitting us anytime soon. It's going to hit Europe because Russia, I believe, supplies 40% of the natural gas to Europe. So that's where they're going to have the problem. We are actually locked in so most of our fleet's going to be natural gas. And we have locked in, when was it? We are locked in through 2025, and we can lock in further. We have a 5-year agreement. We've actually executed 3 years. So we have prices from 22 to 23, 23 to 24, 24 to 25. So those prices we already have set. We only have a small portion of the very 22 to 23 that we still have to buy. We've locked in 50%. Our consultant doesn't anticipate us having a great burden because of that. We've had a great burden because of natural gas because we've had a very cold winter. We had wells freezing off, so prices have gone up. But it's because of our own local area issues, not what's just happened in Ukraine.
Okay, and thank you very much. That was a very good explanation. I'm only mentioning it because I know that there are conversations around anticipation of even, I think this morning I heard something in the morning, Joe, potentially as high as 50 cent, increase that could hit us domestically. But you've answered the question because we are watching it and we've been watching it. So that's very good to know. Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
Mayor?
One other question. Just the counterparties on these contracts are all, I'm assuming, well-capitalized financial institutions. Is that a...
Yeah, we go through, it's RBC. And so we buy these contracts, or we secure a position in the contract. It's a New York Harbor, ultra-low sulfur diesel. And then we're selling them the month before they come due. So we don't take delivery. And yes, these are institutions that are established. Yes, and our consultant is actually the one making sure that it's sold in time. So he's taking the risk on that. We're not. Mm-hmm. So he's doing that. We don't want to take delivery in the New York Harbor.
Okay, thank you.
Natalie, if you don't mind, I have a question for Raj. Didn't we have a discussion back in January regarding diesel? Raj, is this related to that at all?
Yes, thank you for that question. In fact, at the January committee meetings, we had brought a resolution for some diesel purchases when a question had arisen by one of our board members, Mayor Weiss. And we felt that as an overview, this would be an ideal time to kind of go over and present the data. So that's what the reason behind the presentation was.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Raj. Any other questions or comments? Natalie, great presentation. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to the second item on the agenda today. It's a climate action plan. It's update on Greater Cleveland RTA submission for FTA's Sustainable Transit for a Healthy Planet Challenge. We have two presenters. We've got Brian Temming, the Quality Assurance Manager, as well as Samantha Mandy Metcalf, the Planning Team Leader. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Burns, members of the committee and the board. Again, my name is Brian Temming. I'm an architect, a Quality Assurance Manager in the Engineering Division. I'm here to present an update on our development of a climate action plan for the authority. A brief history. Back in 2021, April, President Biden's administration made announcements for target goals for greenhouse gas reduction for the U.S., 50 to 52% from the 2005 levels by 2030. In response to that, the FTA created the Sustainable Transit for a Healthy Planet Challenge. There's 170 agencies participating. In Ohio, there's us, along with Lake Tran, Akron Metro, and Stark. As part of that, the FTA has asked us to develop a climate action plan. The guidance they gave us is they want us to build on existing programs, set some greenhouse gas emission targets for out years. We're using 2030, 2040, and 2050. And they also want us to create some goals and strategies that have some measurable indicators. As far as milestones go, back earlier this year, January and February, we met internally with DGMs, directors, and project managers throughout the authority to have discussions on what potential strategies there could be. Last week, we met with external stakeholders. There was approximately 20 individuals from groups such as the City of Cleveland, County, ODOT, NOACA, Case Western Reserve University, the Cleveland Foundation, Clevelanders for Public Transit, Black Environmental Leaders, Ohio Environmental Council, and the 2030 District. Today, we're presenting to you to kind of go through our strategies and get some additional recommendations. The plan is due April 15th to the FDA. So what we did is we started by creating a baseline year of our emissions. We picked 2018 as our baseline. Primarily, it's because that's when we have the most robust data. We actually have all of our numbers for our fleet, fuel and vehicle miles, along with all of our energy readings for our meters for our facilities. It's data that if was questioned, we can actually go back and find the numbers to show how we came with the calculations. As part of our action plan, we're going to primarily track two different categories of emissions. The first is Scope 1, which are direct emissions. These are tailpipes, basically our revenue and non-revenue fleet. The other is Scope 2, our indirect. This is through purchased energy. So this is the electric and the natural gas we use to heat and cool our facilities. It also includes the electric we use for our rail fleet. As far as this part of the calculations, Scope 1, how we calculate it is we take all of our fuel usage in vehicle miles from the fleet, and then we use the greenhouse gas protocol. What they do is they produce a set of factors for vehicle types and fuel consumption that give you an emissions rating. So we take those numbers, multiply it to get our metric tons of emissions produced. For Scope 2, it's very similar. We take our meter readings for our electric and natural gas usage, and then the EPA has an emission factor hub for various regions throughout the country. And with that, it has a factor of how much emissions is produced per megawatt hour of electricity for your region. For Ohio, we're in the RFC West, which is about 1,700 pounds of emissions per every megawatt hour of emissions, or of electricity produced. So this is a breakdown of our emissions for 2018. We produced 103,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions. It breaks down to about 37 to 40% were Scope 1, which is our vehicles, and about 63% were our facilities and rail fleet. In 2021, last year, we actually reduced that number by about 22% down to 81,000 metric tons. So what we did is to help reduce that even further, we had conversations again with a lot of internal stakeholders to discuss some potential strategies, and we broke it into a few different categories, which are kind of our major contributors to our emissions. The first was fleet. So we looked at our revenue buses, which account to about 95% of our fleet emissions. And the number one strategy we're looking at is converting them to a non-diesel source. Right now, we're in the process of converting to CNG. By 2026, all but 9 of our buses will be CNG. The newer diesel ones will age out in early 2030s, and those will be converted. So by 2035, we're hoping to be all CNG. We're also looking at doing a 10-bus electric pilot, hopefully having that in place by 2024. And then from there, working on expanding that into additional. This was one of the key points that a lot of our stakeholders have been kind of pressing on, is to move more towards the electric bus. The other things we're looking at is how to phase out our gasoline-fueled non-revenue and paratransit vehicles with potential either electric or hybrid. With potential rail strategies, one of the things we've been working on is rail switch heaters, getting them on a remote system. Currently, all of the red line are now on it. What that means is in the past, come October, we would turn on the switch heaters and they would run till spring. This allows us to turn them on and off as the weather depends. So moving forward, we'd like to move to get all of our light rail ones on there as well. Also, as part of this, completing our substation renewal program. The newer substations are more energy efficient, use less power to for our trains. And also a big one is our rail car replacement. As part of that, we're going to have onboard regenerative braking, which provides power back into the main line, and also potential of using higher voltage, which has a possibility of making them more efficient. The other thing that helps a lot is a lot of our light rail track rehabilitation projects and our catenary structure restoration. What happens is our negative returns are through our rail, and we lose a lot of stray current, so a lot of power gets lost coming back to our substation. By cleaning up our tracks and kind of taking care of some of that stuff, it actually brings more of the power, closes that loop, so we don't lose the power. Some potential facility strategies, we're looking at conducting an energy audit of all of our major facilities. This way we can try to pinpoint which items have the greatest cost benefit and also need to be upgraded. We're also, in the near term, looking to integrate a fully automated building automation system. Most of our facilities have something, but it's very outdated, so we'll bring it up to more current standards. Also, our rail shop has an electric floor heating system, which is starting to fail. So there's potential for looking at what we use to heat our rail shop and a more efficient system. We're also looking at HVAC control systems. A lot of our substations just have a manual thermostat. So when somebody goes in there to work on it, they turn up the heat so it's comfortable. They work on it, but they forget to turn it down when they leave. So then that substation heat is on while there's no one in there. So this way we can have it where it has set points and also potential remote. And then we're also going to continue LED retrofits. We've kind of been working on this over the past few years. Our current one we're working on is paratransit. We've purchased all the lighting for the exterior parking lot and also on the building, and hoping to install that in the spring. Also, we're looking at some potential energy store strategies, primarily solar. RTA has a lot of land, especially along the mainline tracks. We have some spots out by our Windermere Spur track, very big, expansive parking lots and roofs where there's potential of installing solar panels. Primarily, we're looking at how that can maybe power the catenary for the train propulsion, and also facilities. And then we're looking at potential strategies, whether it's something we own, we lease, or then could potentially host a solar community. We know with the county, they're looking at installing more solar fields, and there could be a potential for partnership. We're also looking at purchasing clean power. I know one of the Cleveland's sustainability goals is to be 25% renewable energy by 2030, and there might be a chance to partner with them on purchasing some of that clean power. Another strategy we're looking at is displaced emissions. What this is it looks at the emissions not just internal to RTA, what we produce, but how RTA's transit affects emissions on a regional level. So the two areas we're focusing on this is our mode shift. What this is for every passenger mile traveled on transit, it offsets a vehicle mile traveled by a private vehicle. The ratio right now is about 30%. So in 2021, just by mode shift, it actually offset emissions by about 9,000 metric tons. The other item we're looking at is land use benefit. What this theory is that with transit, you can have a more dense community, and with more density on the community, you have more people either riding transit, biking, or walking. So the TCRP creates a calculator for region based on population and land density, and it takes a hypothetical situation of what if you did not have transit there, and then what it's like with your current service. And so with that factor, RTA actually offsets the region's emissions by about 560,000 metric tons. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mandy Metcalf. She's a planning team leader to go over some of the ridership strategies.
Thanks, Brian. Good morning, Chair Mayor Byrne, members of the community, members of the committee. as well as members of the community and members of the board. So since we know displaced emissions have a major impact on our climate footprint, we've included ridership strategies. And we're looking at ridership in the context of a decline over the last 10 years and also an additional pandemic decline. But there are strategies identified in our 10-year strategic plan that could increase ridership. And some of the strategies that may have the potential to create the most impact are to implement the expanded funding concept of the system redesign, which increases service by about 25%. Adding best rapid transit elements on priority corridor routes. This includes things like bus lanes, improved transit waiting environments, and transit signal priority. And also instituting fare equity strategies such as fare capping and free passes in coordination with workforce training programs, for example. So we've established 2 ridership scenarios. And in the first, the ridership rebound scenario, we expect that our ridership strategies will result in a gradual rebound from the pandemic, and eventually we'll get to a 10% increase over 2018 by 2050. The second scenario, the ridership growth scenario, assumes that we can work with community partners and use regional policy strategies to achieve more aggressive ridership growth, more in line with regional mode shift strategies and goals. For example, the Cuyahoga County Climate Change Plan goal is equivalent to about a 20% increase from 2018 levels by 2030. And just to keep the mode shift share in context, transit made up about 2.5% of trips in 2015. So we've estimated emissions reductions from the strategies that we've identified to the extent possible. And based on that, we've started to set these overall emission targets. So these targets are based on the 2018 baseline and are reductions of greenhouse gases per passenger mile traveled. So we have a base target and a stretch or aspirational target. The base target is 10% reduction by 2030, 30% by 2040, 60% by 2050. The stretch target is 40% reduction by 2030, 60% by 2040, 80% by 2050. And the stretch target could be achieved in multiple ways. We could reach the stretch target just by assuming the greater ridership growth scenario. So our challenges include predicting ridership trends, especially in the context of the pandemic. We know there are a number of external factors from regional sprawl to rideshare, as well as internal factors like budgets, service, and fare changes that impact ridership. There's also a challenge involved in predicting how technology will change and evolve in the future in order to plan how we should best acquire and implement the required technology. So next steps, the date for submittal to FTA is April 15th, as we mentioned. So over the next month, we'll be refining and prioritizing our proposed strategies. And we do intend for the Climate Action Plan to be a working document that evolves, enables us to track progress, and also is updated on an annual basis. And we can also continue to work with our external stakeholder group to explore opportunities to collaborate on climate change actions as we move forward. Thank you. Questions?
Any questions or comments for Brian or Mandy?
Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I've mentioned this before. When I was at the convention in December, they had a display of some 60 buses, and all of them were electric. There's no more gas even being shown. And so I'm glad to see how you're working this into the work that we have to do here. Also, you were talking about the lights at the Paratransit building. What's the name of that building?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's just Paratransit. I mean, there's...
I wonder if it had a name.
The Reverend Luke's building?
It'll keep you around, Leah. I know the lighting situation there, that's all.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Terry?
Yeah, Brian, just wondering with the technology of solar kind of ever changing and moving, has there been any studies on how much land we would actually need to, like, say, light the facility or the...
Yes, I don't know the exact numbers. We've been looking at, the big one is potential to power our traction power with it. Since solar panels create DC power, it saves from any efficiencies of converting it back down. And I think it was 56 arrays, and they were, 30 by 90 and something of the sides. I think the 30 by 90, I think it was like 5.6 megawatts of power per hour or something like that is what it came out to.
Great, thanks.
Yes, Mayor Weiss.
I'm following up on Reverend Lucas because I'm also very interested in the electric pilot. So I thought I saw a pilot starting in 2024. Is that
correct? So we have a pilot we're working on, a 10-bus pilot, I believe. They're kind of working out the details, but I think the plan is to go out for RFP end of this year to purchase the buses, but it takes about a year to get them. So it probably wouldn't be in place to 2024. We're also looking at options on how we're going to charge them, whether it's just going to be at a district or if there would be any kind of en route. Chances are it'll probably be more at district starting out. Okay. I know one thing from a lot of presentations and discussions I've had with APTA, the biggest challenge is the range. A lot of authorities, their problem routes are short, or their longest routes, but they're still shorter than what our shortest routes are. So that poses a lot of problems with us. So we're hoping in our climate action plan, we're envisioning the next generation of fleet transitioning into electric. So we're in the process of converting all the CNG, but as the newer CNGs phase out, maybe there's a potential where when we purchase the next line of buses, and hopefully by then the technology catches up. Because 2050 is a long time from now. So,
great, thank you.
You have anything on that?
I think Brian did a great job explaining what's going on with that. In our strategic plan, our 10-year, there is a small placeholder for electric vehicle, and that's where that sort of pilot comes from. Doc, if you wanted to give a few words on that before you do, I will agree that the range is definitely an issue. In the older generations of electric vehicles, I think there's been a lot of work in that arena being made by a lot of the producers of EV vehicles. Usually you do get into, for example, trolleys, circulators. Those are the kind of routes that most agencies start out with for their EV vehicles, their electric vehicles. Ideally, you'd like to be able to put those on long-range routes as well, but then you get into the charging stations and where can they actually stop, or either does it become a mobile charging situation, and that's what a lot of the industry is currently working on now to make sure that transit can utilize those EV vehicles on longer distances and not just the ones that circulate around the garages or downtown. So we'll be coming back to you with more information. Doc, if you have more on the procurement of those vehicles.
Yeah, I'll just share, Mayor Byrne, Ms. Birdsong, members of the board, I'm Flauance Caver. So as Ms. Birdsong said, our strategic plan calls for us to demonstrate and pilot 10 electric vehicles. This year, our team has already started in the development of the technical specification, as well as other opportunities that we see that in ways that we can purchase the vehicle. There are some opportunities that the federal government is hoping that individuals use, which is using state contracts, state-led contracts, so that people can buy these buses more quickly. We plan to have by this fall, so around the September time, a decision on how we will go about procuring the vehicles, as well as we plan to be aggressive. Mr. Schipper there will be aggressive this year with infrastructure dollars, which are going to prioritize electric vehicles. And so we're looking for granting opportunities. So between now and the summer, we'll be looking and applying aggressively for grants that will fund the 10, up to 10 electric vehicles. And so the team has already started, they're prepared. And this fall, we expect to have more information on when we will exactly procure those vehicles.
Just one follow-up question.
Sure, Mayor.
In addition to the buses, are we looking at electric vehicles for other, I assume I don't know what our fleet is of cars and trucks, is there an anticipation of transferring those over to EVs as well?
So as part of the Climate Action Plan, we will surely be looking at it. I know our team in the vehicle engineering group is really trying to see how this electric Ford F-150 does, so this new utility truck. And so we'll keep our eyes on that for our utility to see when and where it can fit into our strategy.
Great, thank you.
Do you want to talk about NOACA?
Sure. Just also to mention that we are partnering with NOACA to install EV chargers for the public at 3 parking lots at our rapid stations as well.
I think we have some slated in Shaker as well, so thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments?
Just one more question.
Sure. Leo?
India, for the bus, the EV buses, how long does it take to charge one of those?
So I can give you information from my previous organization. We had a fleet of around 10 or 12. And in that particular organization, we had Proterra vehicles. There's a bunch of different makers, but they touted 3 hours for 3 minutes. That gives you a difference. And now keep in mind that these vehicles were probably somewhere around 8 years old. So there's been a lot of headway made in that regard. The kilowatt of the actual, if you think of a huge battery that you've got to take along with you, there have been a lot of headway made as far as being able to take that battery with you and maybe even storing it somewhere within the body of the vehicle, so that if there was a mobile unit from maintenance that had to replace it, halfway through before it got to the charger, let's say if you have a special event and you're stuck in traffic, well, your 3 hours easily can be run down, going for a Cavs game or something like that. Yeah. So those are the kind of charging capabilities that were made, and that's why, to support Brian's idea about the shorter routes, that was the issue. There were a lot of conversations going back and forth between some manufacturers and the planning teams in different organizations that had a larger vehicle fleet for electric, and they were starting to test the routes to see if they could go a little longer. So I'm sure it's been upgraded since then, but you're usually looking at least a couple charges mid-route to be able to get through the day. Usually for our diesel, it can go the entire day from AM all the way to the last run and come back in the garage and still have room to spare. I have not seen the electric vehicle that can do that yet.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, Brian, Mandy, excellent presentation, much appreciated. I need a motion to move this to the Board of the Whole.
So moved.
There's no action on this item.
No, don't have to move it. Everybody's good with it? Okay, thank you, Brian. I was looking for Teresa for some guys, and she disappeared on me, yeah. Okay, well, then with that, that is the last item on the agenda for today. I need a motion to close the committee.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. I don't think anybody's opposed.
Okay.
Reverend, it's yours.
Prior to calling the special board meeting, let me, on behalf of Karen, thank the nominating committee for their work, and also thank the board for turning this matter over to our annual meeting in March. Also to you, Mayor Byrne, I again thank you for your wonderful service to this board. You will certainly be missed, and we will keep up with each other.
Absolutely.
I have your number. I know you have mine. Also, my dear friend Leo and Lutz reminded me that March is the month of the historical woman, and the color is purple. So I want you to know that I'm in place today, honoring the women of history and the women of today. I have on the purple because I'm still celebrating my birthday weekend, and the color is purple. We had our big family gathering the other day at a restaurant, and when my son went to pay the bill, they told him, that man over there paid the bill. We went over, we didn't know him. We went over and said, well, thank you very much. Do we know each other? No. He just looked like a good person for me to do something nice to. Wow. And that was quite a bill, by the way. and he said, and I can't get over you're 81 years old. I said, well, I'll be 82 next year, so come back again. But had a wonderful weekend, and I thank all of you for that lovely card that you sent. Now, one other thing, I was spoke at a meeting the other day, and the person next to me had just come from a meeting where there was a panel discussion, and one of the people on the panel was the chief of police of our police force, Chief Jones. Talked about what an excellent job that she did at that meeting. She's here this morning, and Chief Jones, you want to say good morning? That's a good chief, isn't it? All right, we're glad to have you. Anytime you have anything to add to the meeting, you know, you're certainly welcome. Call a meeting of a special board of trustees meeting. Will you please call the roll, Teresa?
Mayor Byrne?
Here.
Ms. Duarte?
Here.
Okay. Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Mayor Kumar?
Here.
President Lucas?
Here.
Ms. McCall?
Here.
Ms. Moss is not here. Ms. Peo?
Here.
Mr. Serrano?
Here.
And Mayor Weiss?
Here.
We have 9 board members present.
All right. We have a resolution. It'll be probably very hard to get it passed because there'll probably be a lot opposed to it, but I'm going to ask you to hold your opposition today for this one because we are expressing appreciation to one of the finest board members we've had in the presence of Leo Serrano for his service as a member of the Board of Trustees, the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority, and extending best wishes for many, many years to come. Is there a motion to accept this resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Will you call the roll?
President Lucas?
Yes.
Can I read the certification of the notice of meeting?
You can do
first?
that as well.
Okay. Mr. President, I first advise that notice of this meeting has been posted more than 24 hours in advance of the meeting, that the usual notification has been given the news media and other interested persons, and that all requirements of the Ohio Revised Code and rules and bylaws of the board regarding notice of meeting have been complied with. Okay, and now I will read the resolution. Okay, expressing appreciation to Leo Serrano for his service as a member of the Board of Trustees of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority and extending best wishes for many years to come. And we had a motion and we had a second. And we got some pictures here, Leo.
There you are, Leo.
Leo in action.
Right. We had a motion and a second.
Yes. Call the roll. Call the roll.
Oh, you want to call the roll? Mayor Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Duarte?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Mayor Kumar?
Yes.
President Lucas?
Abstain. No, I was saying.
I'm sorry, I was thrown off by the roll call. Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Moss is not here. Ms. Peo?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
I'm going to abstain.
And Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
I don't think we have any opposed here.
Thank you very much. Leo, you want to have a word?
Yeah, why not? First of all, I'd like to let everybody know on a secret here. Every now and then it looks like the Reverend Lucas is sleeping. And that's not what he's doing. He's in deep, deep thought and contemplation, and every now and then I interrupt him. So sometimes you think he's sleeping, but then all of a sudden in the middle of the presentation, he's asking questions about what he just heard with his eyes closed. So that's a special gift he has. So, Reverend, I'm going to miss interrupting your contemplations. Real quickly, I went to divinity school, and I had a great mentor. And it was literally in the first month of school, and he brought me in and said, and he called me son, he called me kid. And he goes, I want you to know that there is only one eternal assignment, and everything else is a temporary gig. There is one eternal assignment, everything else is a temporary gig. And he goes, and when you know that, then you know your purpose is to serve. It frees you up from everything else. So about 2 months ago, I was driving to the gym. Yes, I do go to a gym, even though I don't look like it, but I go. So I'm driving to the gym, and I'm at Broadview and Brook Park. And I see this older white male in his 70s. And he's trying to, this is a huge intersection. People don't respect people walking across. So I'm looking at this guy thinking he's going to get hit by a car because he's coming from Aldi's, and he has 2 bags of groceries in each hand. And I'm just thinking, oh man, look at him. He's barely making them. People aren't respecting their turning when he's walking across. And then I go to look to see where he's going. And right there is a little bus shelter. And in that bus shelter is a young black female. And I'm looking at this. And for me, it became the perfect symbol of service. Because you have perfect diversity, old, young, black, white, male, female, together at this bus stop. And it just made me realize the purpose of service. Because we are here, and I'm thinking, we have the red line, we have the CSU line, we have the health line. But for these 2 people, RTA is their lifeline. This is allowing them to live the life they want to live. So my temporary gig is up, and all of you here also have a temporary gig. But while you're doing your temporary gig, remember that the purpose is sacred service. The work you do, even though you got titles and jobs and frustrations and whatever, pinch yourself every day you come in and recognize that the work you do is sacred service so that other people can get about with their life. Thank you.
Any board members have anything to add or direction?
Well, that's hard to follow up with, but I do want to thank Leo for assisting me in my transitioning onto the board. He has a wealth of institutional knowledge and memory, and he's so willing to share it with everybody on the board. You made my transition much easier, and the words you just spoke, Leo, outstanding. Well said. The best to you and your family.
I'll go next, if I may. So, Leo, it's been a pleasure working with you. From the very beginning, you were very honest with me, very blunt and to the point, which I appreciate. If anyone knows my personality, you're a joy to work with. And I think that even being honest about the ways that we can improve as an agency, the ways politically that we can improve, working with CMSD, being able to really serve the community, you are a champion for diversity. That's something that I appreciate. And you don't mince words about your opinion on resolutions and different projects that we have. And I think that kind of leadership is what RTA needs. And I can see why you've been on the board for such a long amount of time, because that kind of leadership and stewardship is appreciated. And it'll be hard to replace you. I don't think that can be done. But absolutely, I have your number as well, so I apologize for that, but I'll be calling you too.
All right. Dr. McCall?
I want to just start by saying that Leo and I came on the board together. I think most of you know, you always remember the person you come on with. You're sort of like classmates. And I want to say that Leo is a great board member. 16 years is a long time, and we've served through some challenging times together, but we served together. And I think come out on the other side of this in a good way. Leo is going to be missed. I think it's important to point out that when Leo first came on, if those of you who were here remember, it's because CMSD is one of our largest clients, and we had issues with making sure that CMSD got their bus tickets on time, that there was no more issues. And I remember when it was being considered who to put on the board, Mayor Jackson then at the time was adamant about wanting a representative from CMSD so we wouldn't have these issues where we would be starting the beginning of the school year and then there would be issues back and forth with the bus passes with CMSD. And so it's a pleasure to see that that's not an issue anymore. Leo is committed and dedicated. But more importantly, I'm going to miss those texts from Leo that says, hey, I got a question for you. It's not an RTA question, but my neighbor's tree fell down next door to him. When is Urban Forestry going to come pick this tree up? Leo, you will be missed here. But the good thing is you're not gone as part of a member of the community and as part of the member of the city and of the county. And he's not even gone yet, and people are already calling your name to get you involved in some other things. So I just want to personally say, Leo, it's been a pleasure serving with you. You are a great person, a phenomenal board member. You are committed, and you can go back and let your person know that you've done well, that you followed his advice, and you're going to be missed here. Thank you.
Remember that plaque. Why Teresa gave it to me. Thank you. It's really an honor to present you with this plaque on behalf of the Board of Trustees. Leo and I have developed more than a board relationship, but a friendship. And certain things have happened along the line, board meetings, and I'll get a call from Leo, and sometimes he's almost crying because he said, I don't think that was fair that happened today, and he has a heart, he has a good heart for what goes on here, and he stays in love and prayer for us, and I'm going to certainly miss him. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, may I present you this plaque, and as I said last week with Mayor Byrne, this is solid gold, and if you ever run short, you can take this to the pawn shop and they will give you enough money to get to the next door. But is there a photographer here? All right.
Stand next to you. Come on, love.
Board, won't you come around?
I love.
Board, won't you come around? Board members, yeah.
My hand on you.
Mayor Weiss had to take a call in the back, so that's why he's not out here.
Minions.
Thank you very much. And at the conclusion of the executive session, there's a little reception in your honor. And again, you get to have another reception, Mayor Byrne, afterward. All right, there's a executive session requested to review the negotiations or bargaining sessions, public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Valerie?
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
I think we need a roll.
Roll call.
I think
No.
we have to
Thank you
call the
very
roll.
much.
We have to call the roll.
I'm sorry, yes. Call
Okay.
the roll.
Mayor Byrne? Ms. Duarte?
Here.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Mayor Kumar?
Yes.
President Lucas?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Moss is not here. Ms. Peo?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano? Here. And Mayor Weiss had to take a call, but we have 8 ayes and none opposed.
Thank you very much.
At this time, I'll ask that the public has to exit the room so the board can have their executive session.
From the RTA staff,
Okay. Mayor Byrne? Yes. Ms. Duarte?
Here.
Okay. Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Mayor Kumar?
Yes.
President Lucas?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Moss is not here. Ms. Peo?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
And Mayor Weiss. Okay. All right. We have 9 ayes and none opposed.
All right, thank you very much. There's no other business before the committees today. Is that correct?
That's it.
All right. So we are adjourned.
Motion.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Not debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no. See you at the end of the month, if not before. Please join in a little reception and you have a chance to have a word with Leo.